So in this lesson, we are talking about how to play back MP3 audio files inside of our Windows Phone applications. And in the lesson, I talked about the MediaElement control. Now, the MediaElement control allows us to control a format of audio, and I gave you the list there in the lesson because not all file formats are available on Windows Phone, but you'll want to just make sure that you're on the list. But if it's a regular MP3 file, you're probably okay. But the MediaElement allows us to control what's going on with that source file, and then allows us to control that playback in our app. So I'm just going to start a basic Windows Phone app project here. I'm naming it Play Audio. So Visual Studio goes ahead and gets our application all set up. And so the first thing I'm going to do, let's get rid of the app.xaml, is I'm going to come over here to my assets folder, and I'm going to add a PNG file just because I want to display a little picture in my app, and I'm going to add an MP3 file into my assets. So I right click the assets folder and I add an existing item, and I then browse to where I have my files that I want to upload. Here they are, a PNG file and MP3. And so I'll select those and add those in. Now you can, in your assets folder, if you wanted to create like an audio folder, an images folder, things like that to keep it a little more organized, you can do that as well. And in fact, I recommend that. But in just this case, we've got these two items, and so we're pretty good with that. So once you have your items uploaded to your assets, you'll come over to your main page.xaml. And I'm going to add in a couple of controls. So the first thing I'm going to add in is a picture or image to hold my picture. Right? So we'll just place that here. Come over to our properties window, and in the source we'll see our PNG C waves clip art that is added into the assets folder, and then I can resize that as big as I want to make it. Right? So our nice picture of ocean waves, because that's the sound we're going to be playing. So then I'm going to need a couple of buttons. I'm going to create a button to start the audio and a button to stop the audio. So this is going to be my start audio button, and I'm going to name it start audio. And then this is going to be my stop audio button. So I'll name it stop audio, and up here stop audio. Great. Now that MediaElement control is an actual XAML control, and you'll find it down here in the list under MediaElement, right? And go ahead and drag that onto your form. Now it's not going to show up. You don't see it. You can put it wherever you want. It's invisible, so it doesn't really matter where you stick it on here. Or I just rotated it around because it's not visible. It's a control that resides on the page so that we can manipulate that source that we're going to attach to it, but you don't actually see it, so it doesn't matter where it goes, but it has to be present. So we're going to come over here to the properties. Let me pin this down so we can see what we're doing. I'm going to give it a name, my audio, whatever you want to name it. Down here in the media section is where we can assign the source, and so the source is going to be, it identifies that MP3 file as being an available source because it's in our asset folder. And there's a couple of other settings and things that you can put in here. Autoplay, we probably don't want it to autoplay because we want it to start when we click the start button. So you'll want to uncheck autoplay. But if this was like audio that loaded up at the beginning of your app and you wanted it to play kind of as an intro or something like that, or when this particular model loaded, then you could turn on the autoplay. If you wanted it to loop, you could do that. You can mess with the balance. You can change the position. So if you don't want it to start at the very beginning of the track, you want it to start 5-10 seconds in, you can adjust the position. And then here you can adjust the volume. So if the default volume of your track is not loud enough, you could go ahead and change that here. So quite a few things that you can do in here with this particular control. So once you have all of your items set out on your page, we're going to go ahead and double click the Start Audio button so that we can get our Start Audio click event. And this is about the simplest thing that you've ever had to do, right? So all you're going to do is call the my audio control dot play. And that is going to implement starting the audio playback of that MP3 file using the settings that you have set up in that MediaElement control. So likewise, for our stop audio button, double click my audio dot stop. About the simplest thing that you've ever had to do to implement audio in your Windows Phone application. Now there is another method that is sometimes relevant, which is pause. So if you want the user to be able to pause playback, maybe your app plays a podcast or an audiobook or something like that, and you want them to be able to pause and then restart that audio, then you can implement a pause button. Because if you stop and then hit play, it's going to pick the audio back up at the beginning. So at this point, you're done. You can, let's just go ahead and fire up the emulator here and let's take a look at our app and make sure that it actually plays our little ocean sound MP3 like we had expected. Now, when you're just playing audio in the primary application like this via like a button, this is easy. There is the ability to play background audio. So background audio is audio that will continue to play when the app is minimized, so that you could continue to check email or whatever, like regular MP3 player apps. And that takes a little more work to actually set up the background audio, but I'll provide you a link in the lesson that shows you how to do this. So here's our emulator. We can see our application. Looks great, right? There's our ocean picture, start audio, stop audio. You notice you do not see that MediaElement control anywhere on this form. So I hit start audio. Hear that coming through my speakers. Nice ocean. I click stop audio, and it stops. All right, so go ahead and play around with implementing audio into your Windows Phone app.